That's it. I'm going to share my screen. And oh, I don't want that. That's not helping. Okay, and can everyone see the screen okay? I hope this isn't obscuring the presentation too much. So welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this lunchtime. We are here to present to you the d.Tree studio. So as I said, the meeting has been recorded. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them into the chat and we'll endeavor to answer them at the end. So we'll be talking now for about 20 minutes through this presentation, and then we'll take Q&A at the end. Okay, so we're going to be covering in this briefing, we're going to introduce you to the team. We're going to tell you what the d.Tree studio is, give you the background about the project, why this is important, what the course entails, and why you should apply and how. Okay, so first of all, over to Latoya, who's going to introduce you to the team.
Hi, I'm Latoya. I'm the project manager and I am a consultant, and I work pretty regularly with Leslie on several projects. And my role in this project is to help facilitate our meetings and to keep us on track with our timeline, but also to help carry out some key milestones in helping the group to get this project launched. Ian Sawyer is going to be the class professor. He participates on the team as well, and Leslie is the co-project manager with the Wright Museum, and she leads a lot of the sustainability work at the Wright. And then, as you know, Ian Lambert with the College for Creative Studies. Does anybody want to introduce themselves with the things that they work on particularly that I may have missed? Leslie?
Sure. Yeah, the Wright Museum has had a Chief Sustainability Officer position since 2015. And we're really looking at how a museum can be a demonstration space and an example for how we look at energy, water, waste, and how it affects people's health, home, society. And so we're really looking forward to finding the College for Creative Studies across the street from us to be our neighbors as we pursue more of these types of green projects. I'll popcorn it over to Ian Sawyer to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, welcome. Really excited to see everyone here. Yeah, so my name is Ian. I'm a resident of Detroit. I live on the east side near Belle Isle. Yeah, and I work. I'm a woodworker as well as I grow food, urban farmer of sorts, and writer. And I think I'm really, yeah, my main passion is just the intersection of the natural world and kind of like the human world, and exploring that artificial division and ways of blurring that more. And so a lot of my woodworking works with urban lumber, but the main thing is that I work with green wood. I work with wood that's available and to me in different places, and as much as possible stay away from stores. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'll be sharing about myself more later on.
Okay, and for those of you that don't know me, my name is Ian Lambert. I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies, but I have a background in making and also in sustainability. And I think this is a really, really exciting project, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So without further ado, I'll move on. So the d.Tree studio, as we've said, is a collaboration between the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History and the College for Creative Studies. And we're going to be working with wood that has been diverted from landfill. And we're working on the premise, the fundamental premise, that objects are not neutral, they reside in a mosaic of relationships. Latoya.
Actually, yeah. So just to reiterate what Ian Lambert said, about 3 or 4 years ago, we found some of the trees at the Wright Museum dead and dying. The roots had strangled some of the trees. They were not planted correctly when our building was in 1997. And so instead of having these trees go to landfill, we thought as a wanting to become a net positive zero museum with waste, that we wanted to do something with the urban lumber. And we reached out, Design Corps convened a meeting, and we met the Ian Lambert, who also had this background in sustainability. And so it became this whole premise of how does an art school and a museum start to collaborate to shift beliefs together, to almost create a new model for how art museums, art schools and museums start to work together, to start to think about our materials differently, to be stewards of Mother Earth. And we invite everyone here to apply for this class so that we can all kind of co-create this new model together to shift beliefs within Detroit, and hopefully create models that we can share with other cities and museums.
Yeah.
Next.
Great. Yeah, so I think what Leslie shared is really interesting, and part of the reason why I'm so excited about this class, because it's so emergent, right? Like it started off with there's these 3 trees that were dying, and the museum had to figure out what to do with it. And the natural response, you know, the natural typical response that happens in cities is just cut them down, mulch them up, cart them away. Like it's, you know, when they're growing, they had a purpose, they had they had a specific purpose. And once that purpose was finished, it's like you cart it away and, you know, you get rid of it. Like, but I mean, you get rid of it and throw it away, but where is this away? So from there, these themes just continue to emerge, and I think they're going to continue to evolve. So, you know, we're presenting pretty much the bone structure of it, but this class is very much alive, I think, and I think that's the basis of it. And so I think, you know, what if the crises we confront are not merely about doing things differently, but require us to be differently? So I think this class gives us an opportunity through exploring the different stories that exist around these trees. So these trees grew on the rich soil of the Wright Museum. And they really have witnessed a certain history being in Detroit in that very specific culturally important place. And so how do we listen to the stories that these trees have observed and witnessed, and also start to embody them in the materials we make? So, you know, a big part of the class is about history and making, but ultimately, I think it is an exploration about the ways we relate to nature and unearthing these different narratives that exist. And yeah, so by honoring the life and presence of these trees, we're committing and also exploring these new relationships and transforming this notion of disposability, right? That is pretty typical with a lot of urban trees. It's like once they're dying, you cut them, get rid of them. So they're seen as disposable, but we want to explore what it means to live in a relationship of reciprocity and things mattering. Next slide.
So Ian?
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, I kind of jumped the slide and shared a little bit about this, but, and I think what's cool about the expansive nature of this class is that it's very much relevant to what we're experiencing right now. You know, last year, the summer of protest really brought to the forefront, once again, not that it hasn't been at the fore from the beginning, but I think in Detroit, you continue to see the unavoidable legacy of colonialism and slavery, and that also connects to disposability. You know, you drive around in the city, you see a lot of abandoned houses, you see abandoned factories. Those are all, again, connected to a certain ideology, a certain narrative around disposability, right? The auto plants, when it was convenient and when it was profitable, were here and produced cars. But once it was no longer profitable, they moved away, but left this gaping hole of families and infrastructure. And so the stories that we know, the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell through the ways we make things continue to create create a certain way of thinking. And so this class, I think, gives us an opportunity to explore, what are these narratives that we're living out, and explore new ways of expressing that. Yeah, next slide. And so I think another thing is really to think about this concept of waste and mattering. So Black Lives Matter, right, is such a, in many ways, it's a very humble slogan, but I think that comes from a context of this underlying belief of disposability. When you look at a lot of the union organizing, one of the things that was said was that they wanted the labor, but not the Black bodies. And so we consistently see these history of people and things not mattering. And through this humble act of making things, we want to move towards a way of thinking of like, what if we see, in some ways, in an Anishinaabe way of thinking, it's also about seeing the world as sacred and reopening that connection with all that sustains us. So again, it's like it's going to be a really interesting class, because it's like in some ways we're making the basic premise is that there are trees that were dying. The Wright Museum and CCS created this collaboration to make to use these trees to make things, but then just from that basic relationship building, suddenly there's all these incredible, very timely questions that we get to explore that kind of go to the heart of how we make meaning and why we do what we do. Next slide. Yeah, so again, the basic structure of the class is that we're going to work on scalable artifacts, that we're going to be very intentional about what kind of narratives that the objects we make convey, and trying to figure out how to continue to refine that. So there'll be just a lot of iteration, making, and then as a class, critiquing, not in a way to bring things down, but just like really trying to help each other refine what is the specific story you want to tell, and how is the object that you made telling that story. So, and again, it's like the possibilities are endless. Like I don't think anyone here knows what possibly these objects can be, but I think as the class goes on, these things will start emerging. If we go to the next slide, you can kind of see
Go back.
Yeah. So here are some projects that are, I think this project is unique. Like obviously there's nothing that's been done like this project because it's space and time specific, but other places that have done woodworking, object making with the context of the particular place and history that a tree has produced artifacts such as these. And if you look online, there's many other. A popular project is called the Witness Tree Project that is happening in Rhode Island at RISD.
So I just wouldn't mind just kind of stating at this point that one of the inspirations for the project was the Wych Elm project in Edinburgh, which took place in 2010 when an enormous elm tree had to be felled because it had disease. It was diseased, and it was given over to 25 artists who took it away and broke it up and made it into these really exciting artifacts. And then the Witness Tree project does just that. These trees this notion that a tree in a place bears witness to the events around it, and there's a sort of a significance of the locus of that within the artifacts that are made. So I think that's the real power of the project that we have here with the locus of the trees in Detroit and being at the Charles Wright Museum. It's really going to have that narrative embedded in whatever you make from them. We'll go back, Ian, so we can slide.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we will be meeting Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 7 to 10 p.m. This fall semester. and we're planning 2 field trips to different sites in Detroit, because again, like this class is very alive. So part of the class will be readings, probably maybe watching some documentaries, but also I think we have to really go out into the city to really get a good feel of, yeah, just like the expansiveness of what it means for trees to grow in the soil of Detroit. I'll be teaching the class. And in many ways, you know, I'm teaching the class, but I feel like we'll be co-teaching. Like there's just so much to learn from each other, so many ideas to explore. So I think in many ways, the whole class will be together navigating these ideas together. And another wonderful aspect of this class is that CCS was able to provide 6 scholarships to students from the community at Wide. So there'll be 6 Detroit residents who aren't enrolled at CCS who will be joining us to again bring in different stories that will help enrich our understanding of what kind of stories we might tell with these trees. And then lastly, all materials will be provided. Great, so why you should apply? If we weren't able to convey yet with all the passion and with all the energy that's gone into this incredible, I think for me, it's an incredible opportunity to be a part of this class. And so I hope you all feel that way as well. But so it's gonna be a 3-credit elective class, and you'll develop narratives that are embedded in objects and informed by in-depth exploration into sustainability and social justice. And with the class, you know, we're taking this approach of belonging, because I think to belong to a place, you have to take care of it, and taking care of that entails values and sustainability and social justice. So I feel like sometimes when we hear those words, it's like something you do, right? It's like you do policy, or you do different behavior changes, or you do protests. But really, I think it's more fundamental about how we view ourselves and how we view the world around us and how that affects our behavior. So I guess, you know, in many ways, I'm hoping that the class can be transformative just on that personal level as well. And yeah, your woodworking skills, we're not expecting everyone to come in with a lot of woodworking skills. I think we really want this, we really want to be learning from each other and inspired by each other with all the gifts that everyone has, and just thinking about how to tell stories, how to embed narrative into you know, in this case, because it comes from the trees, wood. But we want to make sure that your woodworking skills do not deter you, but also we're not going to be it's not going to be focused on woodworking. So there needs to be some comfort with using woodworking tools and equipment. So the idea is that you have a basic understanding and can safely operate these machines. And we'll of course help you as we go. But you know, this class isn't for someone who has absolute no experience using woodworking tools.
Okay, so I think as we said, there are 12 places on this course for all CCS students, and it has to be by application. I know that normally when you choose your electives, you will go through student advising. Student advising are well aware of the course itself, but we're trying to assemble a really rich community of learning. And I think it's important that students don't just sign up, that we actually are a bit more selective with this course. So we're asking for an application. If you visit our website, d.Tree.me, and you can click on the apply to access the form. Okay, but we would really encourage you, even after this briefing, to go and look through the website. There's also a copy of the brief, a PDF of the brief attached to the website. Read through that and really try to sort of understand what the project is really aiming to do. And then you can make your application. We've tried to make it we don't want to make the application process onerous, but it does require you to maybe sort of sit and reflect on the reasons why you want to do the project. It's a very powerful and important project. At the end of it, I don't think we've mentioned this, we would really hope to exhibit the artifacts in a very public forum. So it's important, it's super important. And Latoya is going to tell you a little bit about the review process. Latoya, I think you're on mute.
No, Latoya's unmuted, but we're not hearing you, Latoya, sorry.
Oh, I'll just jump in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was trying to prevent the background. So I'll be brief. I'm a lot of background around here. So this has changed just a little bit since I shared this with Ian last night, just so that we could refine it and make it a little bit more clear. But in essence, what we're even though as Ian said, the question, the application was designed intentionally not to be super onerous, but we are looking for a lot in those two questions. So there's only two questions. I think the limit is 300 or 250 words. And then we're also looking at a portfolio that students should upload their photos of their work. And so we're going to be looking at these things from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective. Hold on one second. Sorry. We're looking at it from a qualitative and quantitative perspective. In terms of the qualitative, we are looking for students that have a diversity of background and experiences and ideas. We feel this is really important to add to the class. A connection to Detroit and a perspective to share. This really ties into Ian's discussion about belonging. Curious and open to the process of learning from the trees, but also because the trees present a lot of opportunity for people to learn about what they have seen, and but also what they can share about history and perspective. And also curious to open learning about the process from the Detroit community and one another. Understanding the possibilities and opportunities of this project. As we've tried to convey, this project is very unique, and there's a lot of opportunities to learn and share and to experience things that haven't been experienced before, but also to be reflective. So we're looking for students that can demonstrate that they are reflective, can be reflective in this process and understanding and learning with one another, and can offer a critical lens of analysis to the process of storytelling and making. So that's what we're going to be looking at from a very qualitative perspective, but that's what we're going to be looking at from looking at the responses to the two questions. And then from a quantitative section with very limited, numerical value added, but still as part of the overall process, a demonstrated curiosity and openness to the process. This is looking at your application quality. So looking at it to be iterative, introspective, inquiry-based, and learning. Openness to the introspective, iterative, and inquiry-focused learning process, as well as insightful, critical, and persuasive. And then the last piece is going to be looking at the portfolio. So there will be some looking at the portfolio and the quality of the portfolio that is put forward. So the quantitative section is really going to be around the quality of the application that is presented. That's including the written part as well as the portfolio that is presented.
Okay, thank you very much, Latoya. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now and just look into the chat to see what we've got in terms of questions. Are there any questions from anybody?
Just one more thing to note is that there's a documentary that's going to be made about kind of like how this class came to be, and the class will be part of that documentary. And so, I think it's going to be more high profile than some of the other classes. And if for folks who don't feel comfortable being recorded or photographed, there is we'll have like a wristband or something available during the class so you don't get recorded. But it's a really unique opportunity, and there'll just be a lot of stories that will emerge from this class. So just wanted to let you all know.
I have a question slash comment. Before working at CCS, I worked in museums for nearly a decade, and I worked at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art as an art courier. And a big part of being a sustainable museum, and especially an art museum, was looking at how many crates and artworks we were shipping in crates and what that meant. And I find that there's this amazing connection here between like museums and a broad spectrum. And one of the things that we did when I was at SF MoMA was we offered up crates to be dissected and made into other products. And I just wanted to share that I had the good fortune of a friend of mine who worked there who cut up an Anselm Kiefer, I don't know if you're familiar with that artist, a crate that held his artwork. And so we have coasters that were made out of crates that we shared amongst our staff. And I just wanted to comment and say, like, I think that this is incredible. And I'm super excited to see what comes out of this project, because I really believe that reducing waste in the museum world is such an important component to museum operation in general. So I just want to like say this is an awesome project, and I can't wait to like advertise this to our students, and I really hope that they will be excited as much as I am. So thank you so much. This is really incredible.
Thank you, Gretchen. We've got a question from Sean. I'm just to answer your question, I'm going to have to try and find the photograph we've got of the wood, which is currently in the basement of our Ford campus, where it's been drying out and seasoning. I can try and do that now if anybody else wants to ask some questions while I do that. Are there other?
And also, Sean, if you want, you can always walk across the street to the Wright Museum, because there still are some of the live trees are there's still some live trees that you can see, that, you know, the type Zokolov tree and the typical size. I guess I have a question for everyone online. Can everyone either like put a reaction, or like 10 being most excited, or, you know, 1 being that maybe you don't want to apply to this anymore now that you saw our presentation? But what are people's feelings of applying and wanting to participate in this type of class? And any comments too, because I feel like you are definitely shaping how we move forward.
Your scores will not be held against you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm currently at CCS studying product design, and I'm minoring in crafts. And I'm actually very excited about applying for the studio. And I know a few students that I feel would be excited as well. And I'll be sharing this information with them. I did have a question about other things that would like be included in the course. Like, I know there is a lot of making because it's a studio, but would there be lectures discussing some of these ideas of mattering? I know that Ian was discussing earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, great, Olivia. Thanks for your question. And yeah, everyone here, please do spread the word. But yeah. So I think it's a studio class, so there'll be a lot of making, but especially like early on, there'll be readings. And I'm thinking it'll probably be like a chapter or article, either per week, or I think probably per week. And we'll be having a discussion every class, kind of like the beginning, and that'll frame the making that happens afterwards. So, you know, it will be kind of, I mean, it'll be a good balance. But yeah, thanks for asking, and definitely there'll be a lot of whole exploration of different themes. And right now, if you look at the syllabus, we kind of talk about it, but you know, there'll be ecology, there'll be history, there'll be storytelling, environmental sustainability writing, ecofeminism, just like really broad way of analyzing the world and looking at the world, so that we can really explore the different ways of seeing the world and telling stories.
Thank you so much for answering my question. I feel even more excited now. I'm glad that we're going to be including some of these readings in the studio. So I'll be looking forward to applying. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful.
So pop quiz, when is the applications due? We can't hear you, Sean, if you were speaking.
Tomorrow. I was like, tomorrow.
No, March 27th, Saturday, March 27th at 11:59. So make sure you hit that mark.
What? I totally misread that.
Can you
The
see
application will close at exactly that time. It will automatically shut itself down. So be on time.
just to answer your question, Sean, I can't quite find the picture. Can you see the picture of the tree that I've just shared?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So that's the kind of, this has been sawn up, this has been milled, and we've actually kept all of the branches as well. We weren't able to get the roots, although I wanted to keep those, but we've got pretty sizable sort of planks from 3 of these trees. So there's a lot of this smaller timber around it as well. It even occurred to me that, you know, not wanting to digress, but some of this timber could be used in other ways. You know, I even thought of a possibility of doing doing some raku firing using the wood. We've even explored looking at dyes from some of the roots to really sort of look at that kind of using the whole tree. But that's the size that you've got there. Now, just seeing. Thank you for that, Jill.
Yeah, and then also for those who, you know, aren't students or have friends who aren't part of the CCS student body but will be interested, please do spread the word. We'll come out with the community application soon.
Earth Day. Earth Day.
Earth Day. So yeah, so in about a month and a bit, we'll be releasing that application out. So yeah, so that's not out yet, but please do feel free to spread the word.
And we are spreading the word through the community with seeds from Keep Growing Detroit. So we will have little advertisements of seed packages. So if you know of any community wood artist, I would say contact Ian Lambert to get some of these seed packages.
Okay, and please spread the word across the college. I know that there's a lot of people who have expressed an interest in the project who can't be here today, but this is recorded. We're going to be sharing this. We'll be sharing the presentation. Look at the website. If you have any questions, reach out and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
One more thing that we didn't mention was that this is hopefully the first of many classes to come. So in many ways, you know, you all will be the first to really shape this class and how it continues to evolve. So I think that's another exciting part of that we're part of this, hopefully, you know, this legacy of transformation and a new way of interacting with materials and using materials.
Jill Davis asked a question that if we don't get 12 applications before March 27th, would we consider extending the application deadline?
Yes, but I hope we would. But the reason we set it at that point is that's when the student advising opens up classes for registration for students for next year. Okay, so we needed to set that deadline so that we can then assess the applications and make sure that students are advised of whether they're in the class or not, and then they can pursue something else if they don't make it into the class this time round. You know, so we had to set that deadline for practical reasons. I know that some of you are already considering your elective choices for next year.
Ian, do you want to describe when you'll find out if you make it into the class?
So the deadline is, again, do we say the 27th of March? And we're going to take about the review panel actually isn't going to be any of us. We've got an external independent, well, I say external, d.Tree Young, our assistant dean for equity and inclusion is going to be one of the people reviewing the applications. But we will probably know within about 2 weeks, a week to 2 weeks of that process, that everyone's been accepted onto the course.
Yep. by April 1st, you should know, so you have time to choose different electives.
Okay, within about a week, yeah. Okay.
So I'm clear for the community applications, there is a scholarship that comes along with this, or there is not?
So for the community applications, Gretchen, we're actually going to be onboarding community members at a later stage. They won't be applying at this point. The scholarship is the fact that there is no fee, there's no charge for them to come and do the class. Okay, that's how the scholarship works. But as I said, all the material, we're going to provide all the materials. And some of the modeling of ideas, because we've got a limited amount, we've got 3 trees. Okay, and actually that's why we've had to think about the scalability of the objects, but we have a limited amount of material, so we're going to be providing other materials that can be used for modeling up concepts before you actually start to use up the more sort of valuable Zelkova wood that is so important, given that that its origin is from the campus of the museum.
Also, just to clarify, we will be part of the judging committee. Ian, Latoya, myself, and Ian Lambert. And one more clarification, that there will not be a public display of these objects, but there will be a documentary. Well, any more questions or thoughts? If not, we can give you back 20 minutes of your day.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I am now going to stop the recording. Thank you for coming.